I expose who I really am to you.
Gary, first, thank you so much for making time to speak with me. Before we get into the new music and everything else, right off the top, how are things going with you right now? The world has changed and you're part of it. How are things going with you and your family?
I'm doing well, actually, despite everything that's happening. Because there's been some downtime for me, time for me to kind of just chill and relax and do a bit of writing and kind of just self-reflect a little bit. And I've been in contact with my family quite a bit over the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, things are going for me, going well for me.
I was going to ask, your family's not in Toronto. Where are they?
Majority of my family is in Nova Scotia.
And everything's good in Nova Scotia and you just said everybody's good then?
Yeah, everybody's good. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That I'm in communication with them. I have a brother who also lives in Calgary. And then I do have family that live here in Toronto, like extended family. So it's been pretty interesting because, over the last 2 weeks, either go to phone calls or video conferences. So this is probably the most I've talked to some of my family members.
It is an amazing thing and how situations like this can bring people together. So, and another thing that always brings people together is music. And congratulations, my friend. You have new music. I want to go into some other things, but right off the top, how does it feel having new music out there right now?
Oh my God, it feels amazing to release some music out into the universe. It's been 10 years since I've released any original material, so I was a bit anxious and nervous and releasing the music, but it really, now that it's out, it feels great. It seems to be received well, so I'm happy about that. It feels awesome.
Now, for folks who are listening to this whole interview, you and I did have a chance to run into each other in the summertime. You were telling me about this, what you were doing and so many other things, but why 10 years? Why so long?
Good question. Why so long? I released my last album in 2009 and did a bit of performances with that and promoting that album. And then maybe 2 or 3 years in, I just felt the need to kind of just take a step back and just experience life a little bit and just step back from the music, live a little outside of music, live outside of creativity and just live outside of always having to be on, I guess, per se. So I traveled, I did some soul searching, and I kind of stepped back into doing some writing and meeting up with producers, but it just didn't really feel authentic in terms of, the writing process and creating new material. So then I just took a step back again. I then started performing with a few different bands in the city and just doing covers, and that felt great because, there wasn't that focus on myself entirely as an artist. And then, there was then that need for me, that yearning to come back and just do my own music and start writing, and it just happened organically. So, that's kind of why the 10-year break. I needed a chance to just step back, discover who it is that I am, and just live a little.
So what are we looking at here? Is this an album, EP, single? What do we have?
Yeah, no, we have an album. We have a full album. It's scheduled to come out in a couple months. With all this that's happening, it was supposed to come out in the summer. I'm not sure if that's when it's going to come out, but we have a full album.
What's the album?
I'm excited to share.
Do we have a name of the album, sir?
Yeah, we have a name for the album. We have a name for the album. It's been a long fall.
I was going to say, you are holding back on a lot here. Can you give us the name of the album? And is there a single out right now too?
So the name of the album, I won't give that out. I'll keep that locked up.
Okay.
But the single, my single was released March the 20th, and the single is called "Me for Me," which is actually the first song that I wrote from the album.
Now, this is interesting because I'm going to ask you what the single is about, but this album that we're going to be hearing soon, is this a reflection of some of the things that you've seen and experienced during this hiatus from music?
It's kind of it's a combination of just kind of my journey along the way. It's kind of reflective on myself. I do reference a lot of, like, I guess, childhood things, or kind of go back to my childhood and remembering who I was at that time. Because throughout the years, you're kind of layered with, opinions of others and just the influence from society, culture. So I kind of went back to, like, my younger years and trying to, kind of remember who I was at that time. And then just the journey from then to now, and kind of just, I guess, self-discovery sort of thing. Yeah.
But with a 10-year hiatus, music changes, styles change, new people, people are in and out of the scene. Were you paying attention to that, and did that also reflect in the music that we're going to be hearing?
I did pay attention to it, not like my entire focus on it, but I mean, music it'll always, and even if when I take a step back from doing my own original stuff, music will always be a part of me. So during that time period, I was still listening to music. So the album itself, I mean, I grew up listening to soul music. My parents used to play, a lot of the soul music like Otis Redding, Al Green, Sam Cooke, James Brown. So I grew up listening to a lot of that stuff. And then I grew up also in the church. So, I have a gospel background. But one of the producer that I met up with, a young producer, he was able to, fuse that old school kind of gospel kind of vibe, funk type vibe into kind of today's music and make it where it's authentic. So it's me. So it doesn't feel like it's forced. So it's an infusion of like pop and R&B and funk. And it feels authentically me. I listen to the album every now and then. I take breaks from it and then I listen to it, and I'm very proud of the album that we've created.
What's the single called, and what's the single about, sir?
So the single is called "Me for Me," and the single, like I said, it was the first song that we created, first time that I met up with the producer, whose name is Loesch. I was introduced to him by a hip-hop artist, a cousin of mine, distant cousin of mine, and this was the first song that we created, and it came from an authentic, a vulnerable place. So I wrote the song, and it's really about my past relationships, dating relationships, in terms of when you're just meeting someone and you're trying exposing and just being vulnerable to make the best out of that dating process, and then, everything's going well, and then all of a sudden it just seems like things just fall off and nothing comes of the relationship, and you're kind of left questioning, okay, well, what is it? Is it me? So there's a line in the song that says, how could you not take me for me? And after, the breakup, and kind of saying to yourself, well, what was it? What was it that caused this breakup? And you kind of look internally at things within yourself that you can change, and just also coming to grips with who you are as an individual and embracing those parts of you, so that when you do date again, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to expose yourself. And if, that individual is feels that you're not the one for them, it's fine. You just, you live and you learn and you experience and you love, and, you keep going at it until you find the right one for you.
How could you not take me from me? Why would you want to break free from me? Give you my heart, give you my trust, give you my all, and you just gave it up. How could you not take me from me?
So it's a bit of, there's many layers to it. Just, myself in terms of embracing everything that I am, and being okay with that too. So, there's different layers to the song itself, but in a nutshell, it's about vulnerability, exposing yourself, embracing yourself, and being okay with who it is that you are.
With all of those things that you just mentioned, it just reminds me back from the first time when you and I met, of course, back in the day from the original Canadian Idol, and talking about all those layers. How do you think you have changed as a person and as a musician from the first time we met, from back then to who you are today?
Oh, gosh, in terms of how I changed from then to now, I stand more firm in my being, even being able to embrace, my sexuality and coming to terms with that itself. And just being that person and saying to myself, it's okay to be myself, even though, parts of at one point along the way, I didn't understand who I was, or I didn't understand it. So I've grown in that aspect. Musically, as an artist, I've grown with, discovering parts of my voice that, that I didn't necessarily know that I had. With this album, I use a lot of my falsetto. And, growing up in the church, I didn't really, I was a belter. And my previous albums, I didn't really use falsetto. I didn't like singing falsetto. I didn't think I sounded great singing falsetto. So I kind of embraced that part and pulled out elements of my voice, like I said, that, I didn't know that I kind of had it. So, and then just trying to tell stories and create music that is meaningful, it's authentic, it's thought-provoking, it'll make people think, it'll inspire people, whether it's about my pain that I've been through, the experiences that I've been through, whether it's about love, whether on a platonic, a self-love, or a romantic kind of love, it's sort of all-encompassing, where I'm able to just create music and write, and it's okay to be vulnerable and create more music and collab, and so it's been a wonderful journey, and I've grown tremendously from that person that I was when we first met to who I am now.
I cannot wait to hear this album. We can hear the single now. But usually I would ask at this point in an interview what's happening tour-wise. We know nothing's happening yet, and it's not going to happen for a while. But a lot of people are doing a lot of social media performances. Could that be happening with you?
I would like to do some live social media performances. I have some clips that I've recorded pre-coronavirus in the last few months, and I'll just, release some of that material online so people will be able to see that. It's kind of an acoustic kind of vibe, just me and a guitarist. So they'll be able to see that, and just me coming in and out of doing some live stuff, and, I guess to see how long we're in this current situation, and just make the best out of it, and continue to share the gift that I've been given, which is my voice.
Absolutely. And social media is the place to go. Where do we go to follow you?
So social media, on Instagram, it's Gary Beals Music. You can find me also on Facebook, which is the same, Gary Beals Music. And then my website, GaryBeals.com. So I will make sure to keep you updated on that as well.
Gary, great talking to you. It's been a pleasure for all these years from being able to do interviews with you, see where you are at now. You have an amazing story, amazing voice, amazing music. Can't wait for the album to come out, and looking forward to seeing you performing on social media too. Look, my friend, hopefully we can run into each other again and shake hands and hug, but either way, man, you are an inspiration, and thank you again so much for doing this interview.
Thank you. Appreciate that so much, Rudy.